Oh boy. Oh boy. This game did not go well.
that user score is real bad.
This game did not go over well. I do think it's just a portion of that. I'm making an assumption are just general Saints Row fans being overly upset that the game is not as good as their predecessors.
Yeah, I mean, we know how user reviews go most of the time. Like people who like it give it a 10, and people who don't like it give it a 0. So
like one.
There are very few user reviews that actually give an actual review with a reasonable score.
But I mean, like, it's still a telling story in that.
Yeah.
Oh boy, this is not.
I mean, the critic average is not good either.
It's bad, and this was supposed to be the reboot for the series that was going to revitalize it and bring it up to date to the rest of the gaming community's open world games genre, and it's really not. And I can tell you right now, watching it, it looks like a game that came out 10 years ago. It looks like GTA 5, but GTA 5 came out 10 years ago, and GTA 5 is functionally better than this game. I mean, it just is, regardless of how we feel about it. Functionally speaking, the game works better. And I have an example. One example of what I'm talking about. Check this video out. This is from the third game 10 years ago. Notice how when he hits something, he flies into the air. As it should be. Hold on, I'm pausing the background music for a second. Okay, notice how, again, he collides with something and falls off the bike, okay? Like, that is fair physics right there. That is fair for 10 years ago. This is today. Well, I mean, August 23rd, but you know what I mean. Same situation, motorbike. Here comes the collision. Bounce.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
He bounced. Oh, this is bad. This one's really bad. Takes out a semi-truck with a motorcycle. You're joking.
The semi-truck explodes and he just bounces off.
It's so... This is my example. Now, that is one example of what I've seen. This is horrible. And
I mean, obviously they have collision in the game with vehicles and stuff because that semi-truck, like, exploded when they hit it, but I don't know. Okay.
But the collisions for your character are completely out of control. Like that, I understand it's a video game and like you kind of have to suspend your disbelief somewhat. But
yeah,
you gotta be kidding me.
Saints Row is known for being kind of like silly and cartoony as well, but that's
too silly.
No.
That's
no,
too
I
silly.
agree. No, that doesn't even make like that's not even silly. It just like
doesn't make sense.
It's not silly or funny in like a Saints Row way. It's just like, yeah, that just doesn't make sense. Like if you were gonna do silly, like you should have them fly off the bike super far and then like ragdoll and then get up and be fine.
Right.
Like that would be the silly like thing that I would think. Not boing. Yeah, like it's like they're bouncing off rubber.
Yeah, no, it's that was just one example too. Like there are various bugs. Like you can get an in-game, like I guess achievement, I'm gonna call it, not like a PlayStation or Xbox achievement, but like in-game you get a little achievement. And I've seen some screenshots where the achievement's just not even filled in. It's like achievement here, kind of like placeholder.
It's debug or placeholder.
It's debug or placeholder text. Yeah, and it's just like, guys.
Yeah, so the game is unfinished. Basically, the game's unfinished.
It looks unfinished, but the problem is this game, no matter what, you can't fix it. The foundation of the game is broken. Just like seemingly from what I've seen and what I've heard, the foundation of this game is completely broken. It's just not there. So you can't just go in and fix some bugs and be like, okay, now it's good. That's not this. This is a rickety situation that can't be fixed, and it's already fallen apart. So this is supposed to be I guess the mainstream big release of this month, one of them at least, one of them, probably not the, but one of them.
Yeah.
Flop, huge flop. I expect a sale in less than a few weeks. I expect this to be out on Game Pass in a few weeks. I think if you're
maybe a few months for Game Pass, but yeah.
No, I think they'll get desperate. I think they'll just be like, look, we need to make a deal and recoup this. This is bad. I also think this will. What was I gonna say? I do think Game Pass in a couple weeks. I think it's gonna happen. It's just there's no chance. This thing is playable at maybe $20. Maybe is my like thought process watching it. It just doesn't look great. So, yikes.
Yeah, I mean, I watched like a single review for it, and basically, I think it was ACG, who's a YouTuber.
Yep.
And basically it was like, yeah, it's like in some ways kind of like a competent third-person like shooter/action game, but just kind of has no soul. The missions are boring. The story is stupid, and not in a stupid, funny Saints Row kind of way. It's just bad.
It's just stupid, yeah.
Like there's fun to be had with this game, but it's definitely not worth $60. It's like not. You're looking for it. You're looking like if you're gonna play this like deep sale, basically 30 or probably 50% off or less, 30 or less.
100%. It has to be 50%
and maybe it's
off.
worth it. But this is not a $60 product. It's just kind of a very generic like open world third-person shooter, slash GTA clone that doesn't really do anything well or better than, as you said, games that came out like 10 years ago. So it's just kind of like, eh.
Yeah, this is a 50% off game or Game Pass. And again, I do think this is coming to Game Pass reasonably quick.
Yeah. It's like it's not yeah, and everything I've heard, it's like it's not a terrible game. It's just painfully mediocre and just does absolutely nothing like especially well, or just does nothing special. It's just kind of a generic third-person shooter GTA, like modern third-person shooter / GTA clone type game.
Yeah. And that's the impression I've gotten watching it. Yeah. So big disappointment. Mediocre. Big disappointment. Sad, very unfair. Okay. Next. Go next. Okay. PS5 price will be increasing in select markets due to global economic environment, including high inflation rates. Okay. Here are the locations that are going to get the price hike. I'm just going to skip some of this text. Okay. Europe, PS5 with Ultra HD Blu-ray disc drive, 550 euros. Digital edition for 50 euros. That's a 50 euro price hike.
I assume, I don't know what it was before, but I would guess that it's 50 euro, so like 10% basically.
Pounds 480, 390. I'm just simplifying the number. Japan, effective September 15th. 60,000 yen, 50,000 yen for the digital edition. Again, I'm not sure what the price hike on this is. I'm just going to assume 10% because the other ones were 10%. Let's see here. China, 4,300 yuan, 3,500 yuan. Australia's getting the price increase. Mexico's getting it. Canada's getting it. The US is not getting it, though.
Not the US.
Not the US, though.
Pretty much all the other, like, big regions. Not the US, though.
Not the US.
For some reason.
Additional note, somewhat related. Nintendo and Xbox have not shown any interest today in a price hike. So Sony is the only major one of the three to do this, to increase the price because inflation.
Oh, I think even more than that, like after this article came out, like a day or two later, each of Microsoft and Nintendo like came out and said, we're not increasing the price of our console. They it's not like they didn't say anything. They were like, no, we're not increasing the price of our console. Don't buy PS5, buy our console, because stupid Sony's hiking the price of their
Because
console.
Sony's hiking it up. They're like, okay, 10% increase. I believe there was information before not from Sony specifically, but they were saying that the sales of the PS5 weren't losing them money anymore at one point. So the point in time they weren't losing money from PS5 sales, they were likely either breaking even or maybe starting to see some profit from it. But now they're like, okay, well, we're losing money again. So 10% increase, but not for US, which, okay. So I'm my only thought is, I am really surprised that one of the big three is doing this, increasing the price years post-release. Usually, it's a decrease years post-release. So this is like opposite direction.
Actually, I can't think of a single time where a company increased the price of a console.
Because there isn't, because that's insane to think about. That would be crazy if like Xbox came out and said, hey, Xbox 360's been out for like 3 years now. We're going to bump it up $100. Everybody like, why? Why would you do that? I mean, I guess inflation hits different, but that does not make it better for the players as well. The players are also getting hit by inflation.
Yeah.
So
no, they're Sony's like totally passing the buck, basically. They're like, I mean, and honestly, a lot of companies are doing this. Like, there's been plenty of reports that, like, you know, the oil companies are they're basically making record profits, and they're just jacking up. I think it's been coming down recently. I haven't been paying. Obviously, I'm in the UK.
Moderately.
I don't drive,
a little bit.
but I heard gas prices might have come down a little bit. But like the time when, you know, the war started, and, you know, gas prices shot through the roof, and, you know, all these things that, like, yeah, inflation. Basically, companies are like, yeah, we're just gonna jack up prices, even though, like, the companies are honestly, they were making plenty of money, and they're like, yeah, we'll just jack up prices and use inflation as an excuse, and just make even more money, basically.
I agree with you.
And it's because there's, like, in a lot of these industries, especially the large ones, there's no competition. It's like monopolies, or not always monopolies, but like there's few large corporations that are in control of it. And yeah, in
the sense of gaming, let's just focus consoles for now. PCs we'll kind of put to the side for a second. Like, you have 3 choices for console, and there really hasn't been there. I mean, you could debate, okay, Nintendo first party games are better than PlayStation ones, but Sony first party games are they're great. They're amazing. Like people want those.
The competition, quote unquote, is weird in the gaming space because of, like, the idea of, like, exclusives.
Correct.
Right? Like, there are exclusives on PlayStation and Nintendo especially that have plenty of, like, exclusives that basically not force, but, like, highly incentivize people to buy their console. And then Xbox has Game Pass and just, like, the large catalog. Like, that's kind of what their shtick is.
They just have, like, this massive catalog for $15 a month, quote unquote. It's like, it's like we are Netflix for games. Netflix can't even be Netflix for games because they're terrible at everything. But that's the problem too, is like Sony can do this, and guess what? Like, people are going to be upset, but you can't buy a PlayStation game that's exclusive to PlayStation on other platforms. Like, sometimes they'll port it to PC, but Sony has a tendency to wait like 2 to 3 years, possibly more, to do that, because they want to sell their freaking console. So, because that's how Sony's making their money, is they're like, okay, well, we're going to sell a console and exclusives because we have the best exclusives. Whereas Xbox is like, well, we don't have the best exclusives. We're kind of aware of that. So we're just going to buy all these various, like, big studios and put all of our chips into this Game Pass pool, and that is your access point where we're going to start seeing money. So, like,
the Sony strategy is, like, you know, they want people to buy their console, and they want people them people to buy games on their console, especially on their on PlayStation Store, because
Right.
that's even less overhead for them.
Correct.
And then what they want to do is, as you said, a couple years down the line, port it to PC, and then everyone who played it on PlayStation just buys it again and plays it. They
Right.
double dip, basically. They're
Yes.
like, oh yeah, here's the definitive edition PC port with Ultimate Edition with
Right.
that comes with all the DLC or whatever. Buy the same game again, but on PC this time. Have
Right.
fun.
Yeah,
And
and
they literally just double dip, and a lot of people do buy it a second time.
yeah, they do, and people do that, and that because when it gets ported to PC, there's some extra features you can dive into, mods, for example, are
Yep.
sophisticated. You can pump up various things frame rate. You can pump up frame rate. So
yeah, sure. There's the PC graphics settings,
Correct.
Graphics options,
Yeah.
basically the customizability of that
Right.
on PC.
So my opinion is, I think Sony's using this excuse, like you said, inflation. It's an excuse at this point. I have no doubt that they're just like, oh well, let's just bump it up $50 and see what we can get, and inflation. And then I also think that Sony's making a huge mistake doing this, because I don't think it will actually have an impact at the end of the day regarding people's interest in buying the console. But you're sending a poor message.
Yeah,
Which is well, inflation's hitting us, and apparently not you, so we're going to increase the price $50.
Yeah, no, I mean, inflation's hitting the general public much harder than any of the big corporations.
So, it's just many people probably won't
Because-
see that message, but I do. I'm
Yeah.
okay,
because
we're also being hit by it.
wages aren't going up. It's just things
No,
are
they're not.
more. People aren't getting any more money. Things are more expensive. They're
Right.
just more expensive.
So you're just well, what the hell? Every time somebody does it, they're oh, well, inflation's hitting us hard, so we have to increase our prices. Yeah, well, you're not paying anybody more, and
No.
you think that we're going to have more interest in buying the service now, or in this case, the product, because you're being hurt by it? Cry me a river.
PS5s are still sold out everywhere.
Oh yeah,
so,
of course.
I mean, well, I haven't looked in a while, but I assume they're still there's still a supply chain issue.
Right.
The microchip thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a bill recently in Congress that the U.S. is starting to producing chips, though.
Yes.
I think they were. I think they were going to be used for specific things, so I don't know about game consoles.
I think
but,
yes, the U.S. was going to subsidize and try and probably subsidize is what they'll do, and start producing.
But still, if there's more chips being produced in the U.S., maybe they're not particularly being used for game consoles, but that means that other chips could be used other places to be used for other things. So
Right. So
we'll see.
My thought is Sony's making a mistake here, but it won't actually affect them, frankly.
Yeah. I mean,
because nobody's gonna just be you increase it $50, we're gonna stop buying your exclusives. That people don't do that. People aren't gonna do that realistically, in a big enough number where it's gonna matter. So, I don't know. Anything else, Spoon?
Nope. I mean, this is just classic corporate bullshit, basically. Just inflation. We'll just raise the price 10% because inflation. Okay, cool.
Next, Phil Spencer says that there's been positive discussions regarding the progress towards the Activision Blizzard deal. This deal has hit several hiccups, and deservedly so, I think. But
it's a big one.
Deservedly so. But there's been a lot of various other oh god, I hate to bring this up. I know this isn't necessarily the case, but Sony's been baby raging about this several times. They're oh well, if they do this, how are we gonna compete? Oh, if we just Sony, shut up. Be quiet, Sony. You're competing just fine. You really are.
I also I feel like it's a bad faith argument by Sony because Microsoft has said that yeah, we're still gonna let Call of Duty and stuff be on PlayStation, and I mean maybe Sony will have to pay some royalties or yada yada, who knows, but I have a feeling though that like if Sony made a big acquisition like this, that they would pull everything off of, and they would just make everything from whoever they bought a PlayStation exclusive. So it feels kind of like a bad faith argument. I mean, again, I have no proof of that, but I just have this feeling from Sony. So like, I don't know. It just feels a little.
Sony bought Bungie, and they said nothing's changing regarding accessibility from Bungie.
Yeah, that's
so
fair.
That is one thing that maybe slides in their favor against that.
To them.
But I do think that Sony is doing all this just to try and slow this down, because they understand that Call of Duty, that's a franchise that likely makes them, I won't say all like a big percentage of the money. I don't want to say it's big, but like that's a brand going on their system that's possibly going to lose some extra features that they normally get. Like Call of Duty routinely gets like first week access on PlayStation and PlayStation specific stuff. I'm sure their concern is, oh well, I mean, if Microsoft owns Call of Duty, they're not going to do that anymore. Which
all the deals will be on all the deals will be on Xbox or on Game Pass, and you can just buy the PlayStation version if you want, but you don't really get anything extra for it.
Right, and so that's a concern. Just one example of a concern, and they're like, oh well, not only are we going to lose potential Activision Blizzard games because some of the smaller ones won't go on our console, but we're also going to lose Call of Duty's early access benefits. We're going to lose some of these other benefits that we would normally get, which is true. They like Microsoft wouldn't do that. I mean, they're just not going to do that. But I do think this deal will eventually go through. But Sony's certainly been making a lot of noise about it, and they probably should be, but they've certainly made a lot of noise about this. They also mentioned in an article before, I don't have it on hand, but they did mention in an article before that they did acknowledge that Game Pass is really challenging to compete with. They acknowledged it at some point, that they can't really compete with Game Pass, realistically. They just can't. And they're like, well, especially if this goes through, we can't compete with it ever. Which is probably true.
Yeah. I mean, they're trying their own Game Pass with the the expanded PlayStation Plus thing. I don't know how that's going for them, but
yeah, that would be an interesting point to see any sort of data regarding how that's been doing recently. I imagine it's been doing like just fine, but yeah, I mean, Game Pass is hard to compete with. It's hard to be like, oh well, we're not going to put our first party games on our own version of it. But like Microsoft's like, oh yeah, this game just came out and it's like a big release. Yeah, I'll just put it on Game Pass right away. Whatever. Because we own
it. That's the big thing is like, the day one Game Pass things, all the big Microsoft, Bethesda now, and maybe eventually Activision Blizzard releases. Like, day one Game Pass.
Like, it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy to be like, I know we talked about Starfield, and we're not as excited as other people necessarily, but
I think it has. It's not about. I think Starfield has potential, but we'll see. Anyways, yeah.
But that's going to be on Game Pass day one.
Yeah.
Like, you have Game Pass, you don't have to buy it. You just have it.
That's one thing with
crazy.
Like Game Pass, because Starfield, I'm kind of like, well, it might be good. I'm not sure, but I can just subscribe to Game Pass and try it out, and if I don't like it, then whatever. Okay.
Yeah. And that's hard. That is hard to compete with, because Sony's not going to do that. And if they did, that would be a huge pivot to how they do things. So, yeah, I mean, Sony's is gonna make lots of noise and continue to do that, because I don't know. We'll see, but there are certain things they just can't. Compete with.
If they get enough of an install base on their upgraded PlayStation Plus, maybe eventually they will.
Yeah.
But I don't think they want to pivot to that until they have like a strong install base on it already, and they know that they can because it's like their first party releases seem like pretty big budget. I think they spend quite a lot of money on each of those games. They're big releases. They're your God of Wars, your Horizons, your Last of Us. All those.
They put their eggs in that basket. Therefore, they're going to spend a crap load on it, because that's how they're pushing their brand. Which again, it's worked for them. So
And then sometimes they get other exclusives as well. Like, at least as far as we can tell, it looks like Final Fantasy 16 is going to be a PS5 exclusive.
Yeah.
At least at first. It might eventually, maybe they have like a year or something, and then it comes to PC or something.
Right.
But I think for at least a few months, if not a year, Final Fantasy 16 is going to be a PlayStation 5 exclusive. So.
Oh yeah, no, it will be, and it like Microsoft, frankly, shouldn't even be trying to get any sort of push into that. Like, I don't think I'm even just talking out of my ass here when saying this, but like, when I think Final Fantasy, I'm not thinking my Xbox.
No.
that's not my thought. So I don't think they should be pushing for that. And Sony probably had an easy access to getting that on PS5 exclusively. It was probably easy to do that.
Really, any JRPG, you don't think Xbox, right?
No, you don't. It's rare when some does get some push from them. Scarlet Nexus was like the only one in recent memory that got pushed, and that was shocking.
And yeah, they had the push of JRPGs in the late 2000s with like Lost Odyssey, Tales of Vesperia, Blue Dragon, and that didn't really work out for them. So
no. Yeah. So it's interesting to see when they actually do push one, and they usually only do it like once every year, 2 years, once in a while. So when you do, you're like, wow, they're actually pushing this and they're marketing it. That's really interesting. Why are they doing that? Which is why I think Scarlet Nexus was so surprising, because they were actually pushing that one. But anyway.
As you said, like with JRPGs, with the big like conferences and stuff, like you'll get like one or two, and like that's kind of the quota for the day.
Yeah, right? for Microsoft, that's it, because that's not the audience.
It's not.
They could, if they wanted to invest in it, but it would be like, do they want, like, they're investing in a lot of other things. Like, do you really want to try again? I'm sure somebody brought it up there.
No, I don't think they have a huge install base of JRPG fans on Xbox.
No, they don't. Realistically, they just don't. But anyway, okay. Next item. Reportedly, by the way, this report was refuted. Somebody said Amazon was going to acquire EA. That's the short version. Somebody said that Amazon was interested in acquiring EA.
I heard it came in like USA Today, but the source was like a Swedish affiliate or something like that, some European affiliate that like writes for USA Today or has some association with USA Today.
Right.
And then like a few hours later, it was basically said like, nope, this isn't
true.
So
yeah, this came out, got refuted quickly, and EA, to be fair to this article though, EA has said they're interested in being acquired. They said it already.
Yeah,
they did say it. They're like, yeah, buy us. We need money. Buy us. Let's get the shareholders more money. Buy us. So it wasn't crazy or anything like that. Like there might have been some logic to it because EA wants to be acquired. Amazon, they're already invested in the game space, so it would be great for their own cloud service, which I have no idea how that's doing. So I mean, at some point, I think somebody will try and acquire EA, but it's just a question of will somebody let another company acquire them. My actual thought on a company that would acquire them would be like Disney. Disney would be a thought because EA pushes the Star Wars products.
Yeah, they already have worked. They've worked together.
Yeah, that would have been my first one if Disney wanted to jump into gaming more seriously. So, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't like this idea wasn't like out there. So, any other thoughts, sir?
Yeah. I mean, I'm with what Ghost said in the chat. Like when I saw this break, I was like, uh-oh, that's I don't know if I like that.
Yeah, I mean the big fear is all the big AAA publishers in particular are just going to get bought by some giant, and the giants then at that point sort of are the main ones now.
Then it's like a monopoly, and it's like, okay, uh-oh.
Yeah, then it's Microsoft, Sony, and let's just throw in Amazon for now. Then it's Microsoft, Amazon, and Sony. And Sony has to compete with Microsoft and Amazon money. And that's not good for them. That's just not good.
And Nintendo would still be there as well.
Nintendo would still be there, and Nintendo would be fine. Nintendo's Nintendo. They're kind of just fine doing their own thing. They don't really care.
They have their fans. People are going to buy Nintendo products because they're popular. And,
yeah, their games are really like Nintendo. Like really, you think of Nintendo. Like again, Mario, Nintendo. It's just like that's Nintendo, and they're going to be fine regardless of what happens. They'll be fine.
Yeah, they don't really compete with the others. They just kind of do their own thing.
And no matter what, they will always have the super mega ultimate franchise in Pokemon. They will always have the trump card. Like we have Call of Duty, we have Pokemon. We have Pokemon. That's
Call of Duty, Madden.
Pokemon.
Nope, Pokemon.
Pokemon. That's the thing. Like that's that end of argument. Pokemon. We've won already. Pokemon. We have an endless supply of content, and that is the moneymaker. That is it. That's the treasure trove, is Pokemon. It's not Mario, it's Pokemon. Anyway. Any other thoughts, sir, regarding this?
No. Yeah, I just wanted to mention it because it was kind of a dud because, you know, it popped up and then a couple hours later it was like, no, that's not a thing.
No, I saw this too, and I was kind of thinking, like, okay, that does make some sense, though. That would make sense. Yeah. So I didn't think it was out there at all. Anyway, okay. Let's move on. I got to turn off the music for this. The music isn't appropriate for this next section. I'm sorry. It's good music, though. I was listening to it. It's very nice.
It's Xenoblade 3. Well,
the music's good.
Talk about Xenoblade 3 a little bit more later.
Sure.
I think.
No, that's totally fine. We're not going to talk about this stuff for more than I think is appropriate. Okay. I think the